How's everybody this morning? Good? Well, I'm fighting a little bit of sinus infection, I assume, not contagious. Anybody else dealing with allergies right now? Any? Yeah, I thought I had left those behind. Well, hey, we are so excited you're here, and we're also so excited about what God is doing in our church community. We had Epic 101 last Sunday night, and it was about 60 adults showed up, and it was a great time for us to cast vision about what our church is about and what we want to be about here in San Francisco and the greater Bay Area. And if you couldn't be there but wanted to be there, email us. We'd love just to send you a packet that we handed out last week saying, hey, here's what it looks like to be a part of our church, and here's what it looks like to understand the Christian faith and things like baptism and volunteering and all kinds of other ways you can contribute here at Epic. So we began this series last week, and we want to just continue this morning. And I want to start off by saying this. Whatever we want in life, if our performance is good enough, we can get it, right? So, for instance, my 5-year-old Sam, we call Sam the snack king. And I know you're thinking, like, every 5-year-old kid loves candy, right? Not like this kid. Not like this kid. It's so bad we have dental records to prove. When Sam was 4 years old, they're not up on the screen. I couldn't get those together this morning. But when Sam was 4, just this past fall, he was still 4 years old, goes to the dentist, 4 cavities, and he has to get a crown. And the dentist said to Sam, Sam, do you like fruity, gummy snacks? Sam's reply was, yes. And anyway, since then, we've kind of taken over what Sam is allowed to have. But how Sam performs at the dinner table is a direct correlation to whether or not he's going to get what he wants at the end of the night. You with me? So Sam has a decision to make. If he doesn't handle the green beans, there's no M&Ms. So Sam wants M&Ms so bad that the only way that he's going to get the M&Ms is perform well enough at the dinner table with mom and dad watching. And so literally, begrudgingly, anybody else do this to your kids or as a kid? Like just to get the snack, you ate the stuff or fed it to the dog or came up with all kinds of ways. And so Sam knows that if he dominates the green beans, he gets the M&Ms. However, Sam is pretty crafty as well. And so he began a few months ago this trick with us. And we caught on quickly. But Sam's trick was that he would say that he did not want his food and he knew he was going to bypass his snack. And so what mom and dad would end up doing was throwing the food away. Whereby Sam would come back into the conversation and say, hey, I really want a snack. And would say, Sam, you didn't eat your food. He said, I'm ready to eat it now. And his food's in the trash. Performance, even at the supper table, dictates whether or not Sam's going to get what he wants. This plays out every single day at our house. It also plays out whenever you're on a first date, right, guys? If you perform well enough, there could be a second date. And I'm not talking about the bedroom, so don't get crazy on me. I'm talking about just doing nice things for her. I'm talking about opening her door, making sure that you're not getting stuff all over your face. But whether or not you do well on a first date, right, ladies, will dictate whether or not there's a second, third, or fourth date. Is that true? So it's really all about performance. In 2009, the band U2 grossed over $311 million just from their tour. Why? It's a P word. It has to do with our series. Because they are great performers. And so every arena in our life, if we perform well enough, we get what we want. If you do well driving on your driving test, you get a driver's license. Right? If you do well on a test in school, you get the right grade. If you do well at work, you get what you want. You and I are people who have desires. And in maybe 99% of everything in life, we can get our desire, we can get the desired result if we perform well enough. So this thought process, it plays out in every arena of our lives, including the spiritual arena. And this morning I want to open up to Luke chapter 15. We were there last week. It's Luke chapter 15, so it's the third book of the New Testament. And if you need a Bible, we want to just give you a free Bible this morning. Anyone that needs one, just raise your hand. We do this every week. Just raise your hand. We're going to let you borrow one. You can keep it if you don't have one. If you like this version better, keep it. Keep your hand up. We want to just distribute these. This is why we bought these Bibles, to get them into the hands of our people. And so keep your hands up. We got one right here in the second row. Everybody has one that needs one. And in those Bibles, we're on page 747. So if you keep bringing those Bibles back, page 747. If you just got one of those Bibles, page 747. And last week we spent time, Jesus started the story by talking about the younger son. And this morning we're going to continue the story talking about the older brother, the older son. Luke chapter 15. And here's what I want you to know. There's a lot of truths to take from Luke chapter 15, right? God's heart is exposed in this chapter, maybe in ways it's not exposed in many other chapters in the Bible. And so we see the reality of who God is. We see the reality of who we are. We see the reality of what can be possible for us. And we also see the reality that many of our assumptions about God and ourselves are unfounded. They just aren't true. And so what I want to do this morning is read verses 25 through 32. The verses will be on the screen. Normally what I do is read the entire passage and then we begin to unpack what it means. But what I want to do this morning is I want to walk through a part of the passage at a time and then let's unpack it as we go along so that you and I can see how the story progresses. Does that make sense? So keep your Bibles open there. Let's keep the verses on the screen. And we're just going to walk through perhaps a verse at a time and then unpack what it looks like. So in verse 25, it says, "Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing." Okay, I want to bring some of you up to speed if you weren't here last week. The reason why there's music and dancing is because this older brother has a younger brother who's come home. The way the story began was the younger son said to his dad, while he was still alive, "Dad, can I have your inheritance?" How many of your fathers would be game for that? I mean, you don't know if you're getting them even when they're dead, right? But when they're alive, most of them might not be game for, "Here you go, I'll give you everything that's going to be yours once I'm gone." And so that son takes all of his dad's stuff, he goes and the text says that he squandered it, that he wasted it in kind of this reckless living. And so he squanders this in reckless living. And as he squanders it, he begins to be in need. And there's a severe famine in the entire country. And when the famine comes, focus right here with me, guys. I know we're all thinking the same thing. Focus right here. When the famine comes, he finds himself in need, and so he begins to feed the pigs. But then he realizes that he actually wants to eat the food that the pigs are eating. And the whole time, his dad thinks that he's dead. His dad knows that he wanted to get out and live this kind of wild lifestyle, and so his dad believes that he's dead. When the son comes home, the father runs to him, embraces him, kisses him, puts the best robe on him, gives him a ring, gives him shoes, kills the fattened calf, and now there's a celebration. But the older brother, the whole time this is going on, the planning stages, which are spontaneously happening, the older brother is in the field, and this is huge. What this is saying is not just, don't gloss over, the older brother was in the field. What it's saying about the older brother is that he was very different than the younger brother. The older brother is in the field. The older brother is working hard for his dad. The older brother has not left. The older brother has not asked for his inheritance. The older brother is doing what he's supposed to be doing, just like he's done his entire life. The older brother is the good son. With me? Thinking through this performance lens. So as he comes near to the house, he hears music and dancing. And the reason is, he knows there hasn't been a party scheduled. It wasn't on his day planner for the day or his... What are you guys using? Who uses Outlook? Like, raise your hand. Outlook. All right. Who uses Apple Calendar? Who uses Gmail Calendar, Google Calendar? All right. Who's still using the pen and paper? Represent? All right. That's where it starts for me, but I've got to get it electronically in there at some point in time. And so it's not on the calendar that day. He knows there isn't a party planned. The reason you and I can know this is because he's out in the field, he's just doing his work, he's doing the thing that he's supposed to be doing, and he's been doing the thing he's supposed to have been doing all of his life. He starts to hear music and dancing. There's this great celebration. Let's pick it up in verse 26. It says, "And he called one of the servants," so he called one of his dad's servants, and asked what these things meant. He's just going like, why is there a party? There's not supposed to be a party. Verse 27. "And he," that's the servant, "said to him," the older brother, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound." So this is the first time the older brother gets wind of the fact that, oh, that's why the party's happening. The servant is saying it, you can imagine, he's saying it joyfully. The reason we're having a party, the reason why there's great food, and why there's great music, and why there's great dancing happening, the reason why he was willing to kill the fattened calf, delicacy back then, big deal. The reason why is because your brother has come home. And certainly the older brother must understand that the father would rejoice at this, because the father certainly has lived in agony while the younger son has been out who knows where. Well, how's the brother going to respond? You guys, we've seen on Oprah and other talk shows, and you've seen this online and in the news where people are reunited with each other. Have you seen this?
Yep.
Right? And we celebrate, right? It's a huge deal. You say, this person hasn't seen their sister in 20 years, and Oprah brings them on, and they're sitting on the stage, and they're reunited with each other, and it's a joyous occasion, isn't it? Well, everyone is having a great time at this party. And the brother understands the party's happening because his little brother came back home, and in honor of the little brother, the dad is throwing this huge, spontaneous feast. How's the older brother going to respond? If you don't know the story, this will be real fun. How's the older brother going to respond? Is he going to be excited? Is he going to be glad little Junior came home? Let's find out, verse 28. Again, we're thinking through the lens of performance. Here's the brother's response. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. He's angry. He's ticked off. And is he angry at the brother, or is he angry at his dad? Both. It seems to be in his mind that he's written his brother off, because when a son would go and leave and take the father's inheritance, the son was as good to that family as dead. Right? You've seen this in other cultures, maybe even your own culture. When someone chooses maybe a different religion that doesn't fit in with the culture, they're seen as dead, right? Anyone familiar with this happening? It happens all the time. It happens in our country, but it certainly happens in many other countries as well. People are seen as good as dead because they've chosen to go outside of the family. Well, this brother takes and wastes everything, and so the older brother in his mind no longer has a brother. And so the servant says to him, there's a party going on. It's in honor of your brother. He's been found. He's come home. He's been restored. And the brother goes, no, I'm not going in. Everyone is there. It is a party full of great food. Who likes good food at a party?
Yep.
Good music?
Yep.
Good dancing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a great dancer in my mind. Seriously, I am a great dancer in my mind. So there's this huge party going on. And everyone's there. All the servants are there. They've taken off work for the day. The brother's finished his work in the field. He's coming home. He hears music and dancing. He finds out why. And it says that he was angry and refused to go in. And you know why he's angry? He's angry that his father would dare throw a party for a brother, a son, who's wasted everything the family had. And he refuses to go in. But it says, this is real interesting. It says the father, who represents God in the story, the father came out. Do you remember how the younger son got responded to by his father? Same father? If you don't know the story, the younger son decides he's going to come back and work for his dad. But the Bible says that Jesus tells the story that while he was still a long way off, the father saw him and he felt compassion for him. And the father begins to run towards his son. Now, in this culture that the story said, and fathers don't run, right? It required him picking up his robe and running. Dads didn't do that in this patriarchal culture. But this dad does. Isn't it interesting? The first time the father sees the younger son who's wasted everything he has, the father initiates the response. The father is the one that goes to the son, and the same thing happens here. This is telling us something gloriously beautiful about who God is. God's the one who comes. When the younger son has been rebellious, the father runs to him. When the older son's upset because of the way the father, he's upset at the father. The person who he's angry at the most begins to come to him. And just in case you and I need pictures of God repainted in our minds this morning, we have a God who initiates the relationship with us. 1 John 4:19 says that we love because he first loved us. When there was nothing about us that wanted to love God, when there's nothing about us that wanted us to seek God, God loved us, God sought us, God pursued us. The Father came out. And isn't it interesting? Many of us would never go to the person that was angry at us and try to make things right, would we? We should be like, man, fine, just cry over there in the corner. I'll be here when you get ready to come back. But the Father in this story and God in reality, regardless even when our anger is towards him, He's still a God that comes to us. He's still a God who pursues us. He's still a God that wants to rescue us. He wants things to be different. So his father came out and entreated him. Basically, the father begged him anxiously, urgently, would you please come in? He's like, there's a great party going on. Your brother's not dead. Your brother's not lost. He's not blowing the money anymore. Now, let me just say this, and the story doesn't say all these things, but I want to make a few assumptions about the story. It doesn't say that the younger son wasn't going to need an extreme amount of help, right? And the younger son probably needs good counseling. Wouldn't we agree? He's blowing everything. He probably needs a little rehab, right? So it's not saying that the father doesn't try to make things different for the younger son's life. It's just saying at the moment that didn't matter. His performance wasn't important. And so he goes out the same way to the older brother and says, would you please come in? And here's the good part, verse 29. Not the really good part, but makes the story good. Verse 29. But he, the older brother, answered his father, look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. You hear what he's saying? I've done this all my life. I'm not calling in sick. I'm not asking for vacation time. I'm not asking for my inheritance. I have not blown all of your estate. I have done everything that you told me to do. I've performed so well for you. I have given you everything that I have. And I never disobeyed. Here comes the complaint. Yet you never even gave me a young goat. You never even, verse 29, you never even gave me a young goat. Like, you're getting the big fattened calf for my brother. He has blown it. And I don't even get a goat. He believes that he's entitled to more than his father's given him. But the reason he believes it is not because of the relationship with the father. The reason he believes this is because he has worked so hard for his dad. Dad, you didn't even give me the goat. You didn't even give me a party. Now verse 30. But when this son of yours came, he didn't say my brother. Notice that. But when this son of yours came, he's talking about coming home, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. He's saying, your younger son is getting all the stuff that I deserve. He's saying, my little brother, or my former brother, because he's not calling him his brother, he's saying the son of yours. And he's reminding the father how ridiculous the father's being, isn't he? He said, remember, this is the one that devoured your property, your money, your name. And he linked your name and your stuff, and he used all your wealth. Dad, your hard-earned wealth, he used it on prostitutes. That's how he's performed. And the result is that you killed the fattened calf for him. And he's telling his dad, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you do this for him? He's basically saying, Dad, how dare you give him what only I deserve? Because the older son believed that his performance had gotten him a good standing, or would get him a good standing with his dad. He believed that the younger son saying was true, and so because his performance was so poor, how in the world, Dad, are you doing this for him? How in the world are you doing this for him, Dad? Why would you do this for him? In verse 31, here's the father's response, and it needs to hit you and I in the heart, I think, this morning. The father's response, he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. The father says to his son, hey, my goal, what I live for, what I'm passionate about, is you and my other son being with me. He says, you're always with me, and all that's mine is yours. He's saying, it's good. It's good. You are with me. This is a good thing. And you're not with me so that you can earn my love. You're with me because you already have my love. And God wants to say the same thing to us this morning. Otherwise, you and I play the game of religion, and we constantly do things and stop things and start things and ask ourselves, have we been good enough for God to love us? The son is trying to figure out, haven't I done enough? If you play that game of religion, you're going to always play the game and never know if you've done sufficient. But he says to him, son, you're with me. This is about love. This is about relationship. All that I have is yours. I'm not giving your brother something and holding out on you. Everything I have is yours. But listen to what he's not going to do in verse 32. He is not going to apologize for the party. The dad says to the older son, it was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. The dad is not about to apologize for how he's treated the younger son. Don't you love this? He's not going, you're right, I was too grace-filled. I was too loving. I was too compassionate. I was too nice. I was too merciful. No. Because of the Father's character, he says, because of what's important to me, because of what I'm passionate about, it was fitting to celebrate. You and I have all kinds of assumptions about what's important to God. Jesus told 3 stories in a row in Luke 15 so that we would understand that God is about us who are lost and wayward and losing our own way, being found, and about every one of us who are dead in our sins, not alive. That Ephesians chapter 2 says that while we were yet sinners, Christ made us alive. Not when you did well. Some of you think if I can just get on my A game when it comes to the spiritual stuff, then God's going to be excited and He's going to have a new person in the family, so to speak. And I just want to tell you that, listen, when you were screwing up, when you couldn't do right, when you continued to make mistake, when you chose your own selfish way over His way, that's when He sent Jesus to die on the cross for you, not when you got it together. It's the best news I will ever give you from the stage. Listen to what Tim Keller says, and if you're interested in reading and learning more about this, I really got a lot of the ideas for this series from this book, The Prodigal God. It's an incredible book. Tim Keller is the author. If you're interested in that, I've got a copy you can borrow, or you can get it on Amazon. Listen to what he says about this brother. He says, the elder brother, it should be on the screen, the elder brother is not losing his father's love in spite of his goodness, but actually because of it. It is not his sins that create the barrier between him and his father. It's the pride he has in his moral record. It's not his wrongdoing, but his righteousness that is keeping him from sharing in the feast of the Father. Same could be true for us this morning. It could be the very thing we thought would get us to God, right? So if you have a works-based theology, it means that you think if you do good enough, then God loves you, God accepts you. And if you're living in that, it could be that those good things you're doing for God could be the things that separate you from Him. Here's why. If you think you get yourself to God, then you can pat yourself on the back. Then you really don't need God to come and rescue you. You really don't need God to step in and intervene, but can you? What do you feel like God owes you this morning? What do you feel like God owes you? What are you entitled to from Him? Because let's be honest, if we feel like God owes us, then we will believe that Jesus is simply that which we deserve. Does that make sense? So when Jesus dies on the cross for us, when He rises from the dead, as we'll celebrate in 2 weeks, if we think that God owes us, then we think Jesus is simply, of course, that's what I deserve. But if you and I understand that on our own, we don't deserve anything from God, we don't deserve His love, we don't deserve His mercy, did the younger son get in with his father a great relationship because of what he deserved? Did he? What did he deserve? To be alienated from the family forever. But in spite of what he deserved, because of what was important to the father, because of the father's heart, the father embraces him, the father kisses him, the father throws a huge celebration in his honor. If you understand that, and we're not owed anything by God, then when you understand who Jesus is, and when you understand what He's done for you in the world, then you're just like, in humility and in great gratitude, you're just going, thank you. Every one of us in this room, you do things on a day-by-day, weekly basis. You have to work hard so that you get the result you want. When it comes to the truth of Christianity, here's the hard thing. You just have to receive it by faith, that what Jesus has done for you, what you couldn't do for yourself, and it's yours. one of the things I'm passionate about as a pastor and passionate about for our church, we will be a church that celebrates the younger sons coming home. Let me say that again, and then unpack it. We will be a church that celebrates the younger sons coming home. I know of many churches in our nation, perhaps you've been a part of them before, and they were very religious. They felt a lot of themselves. They had many rules. They really looked down on anyone who had a lifestyle that didn't conform to their thoughts or even God's thoughts. We are going to be a church that celebrates younger sons coming home, younger daughters coming home, people who have blown it, people who have wasted their life. We are going to celebrate that. It's going to begin May 1st. We're going to have our first baptism celebration. It's going to be simultaneous with a cookout. So if baptism's weird to you, hopefully barbecue makes sense. But we're going to do both of those at the same time. And if you have placed your faith in Jesus, we'd love for you to consider being baptized that day. We're actually going to be at Bayside Village where the Lees who are on our staff live, and there are heated pools there. We can't guarantee that the baptism in August will have a heated pool. So if you're considered being baptized, I would say May 1st would be a great time to get on board. But we're going to be a church that celebrates this. And here's what I want you to think about. 2 weeks from today is Easter, and all of us have these in our program this morning. Would you just get this out for a second? I know you guys need a lot of training on what I'm about to train you. We want to have a service and a gathering every Sunday morning that you can invite your friends to. And we hope that you feel good enough to invite any of your friends in the Bay Area to this church. If not, let us know. Why would you not? Why would you not? But in 2 weeks, we know just from history that more people are open to coming to a church on Easter Sunday than they are any other Sunday the rest of the year. Christmas would probably be second. And so we are going to use some of our church partners throughout the country that are going to come out in a week or so. We're going to literally pass out 100,000 of these throughout San Francisco. We've got 60 people who are coming. We're going to give them 30 hours a week to do this. But who in your mind do you think may never want to be a part of something like you're experiencing this morning? Who in your mind, though God's done something perhaps to change your life at this church or a church like this, who in your mind you go, you know what, but that would never happen for them? Let me ask you this question. Why not? One of the answers may be because you don't invite them. How difficult is it to say, hey, our church is having 2 services Easter. There's a 9:30 and 11 o'clock. I can walk with you. I can meet you in the lobby. I can meet you outside the hotel. Would you come with me? You're like, but then they'll know that I go to church. Oh, I forgot that's a secret. We're praying through a prayer guide. You can see that prayer guide on our website. It's epicsf.com/Easter. 21 days. It started last Sunday, and we'd love for you to be a part of this, even if you haven't done any of it for the next 2 weeks. And we're just praying and going, God, would you use Easter to be a significant day in our church? There's lots of seats here that could be filled up. Hey, and just so you know, if you're like, I just don't know if there are enough seats, listen, the W, we pay for time, not for services. And so we can do 2 services in here on a Sunday morning. We can do 3. We can perhaps even squeeze in 4 for the sunrise crowd. Why would you not use your relational networks to have them be a part of something that could change their life here on this earth and their life to come once this earthly life is over? My commitment is over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to personally invite 40 people that I haven't invited yet to Easter. Would you be willing to do that with me? 10, 5, 12? How hard is it to go, hey, to your people you work with, the people that you live around? Right now, without our church doing anything, 20,000 mailboxes will receive a mailer like this. 100,000 individuals, it looks like, will receive an invite card. But we all know that more than 80% of the people who come to a church for the first time come because they're invited by a friend or acquaintance. So I want you to begin making a list, a real literal list. Whether you use a paper you got this morning, use the back of one of these cards, use a journal that you use, and I want you to begin making a list. Who could I invite? And I want you to pray for those people, and then I want you to make the invite. We've got 14 days. What might God do in our church? How many younger sons out there? Remember, that's where we all start. How many younger sons out there who don't understand God's heart towards them, who don't understand that they don't have to be good and be religious and be moral for God to love them and for God to send Jesus to die in their place? But maybe that's a message just for you this morning. Maybe it needs to hit your heart before it hits your lips to tell others about it. Are you putting your confidence, are you putting your stock in your good moral record, trying to be good enough? That is an exhausting journey, isn't it? We've been there, right? Like if I just do a couple good things, if I give some money to the poor, if I read my Bible, none of those things are going to do it. But the beauty is that you don't have to do those things. Everything that has to be done has been done by Jesus, not you. But what you do need to do is embrace Him. What you do need to do is place your faith in Him. This morning, if you have questions still about God, He's big enough to handle those questions. Even though the older brother was furious with his father still came to him. Even though you may have questions or even anger or fear towards God, He still comes to you. He still pursues you. He still seeks you. What are you going to do with that? What are you personally going to do with that? Let me pray for us. On your communication card, there is a place there that if you want to meet with a staff member or if you want to talk to someone about becoming a Christian, follower of Jesus, we are here to do that, and we'll be here throughout the week. We are excited about the community that God's called us to lead here, certainly including you. If there's things you want us to pray for, you can put those things on here. Whether your performance is horrible or you're a really good performer when it comes to morality and religion, neither one of those things keep God from you. At the same time, if you choose to reject the God who loves you, the God who has invited His Son into the party, He's invited many sons and daughters in this room into the party, into the celebration, what's your response? Will you stay outside like this brother, or will you come on in? He's made a way for you to come in. Nothing else you have to do besides receive it in faith. God, would you do something great in our community? God, I thank you for this truth, and I pray that it would just rivet our hearts, that our hearts would be drawn, that you would do something in this moment where we would go, yeah, that's it. That's it. I've been trying to be good enough, and I don't have to be good enough. I can respond. I can accept by grace and mercy the love that Jesus has poured out for me. And in that same vein, God, could we become people who love people that we walk beside and work beside and live beside and eat beside every single day? God, could we leverage the influence you've given us relationally? Simply by handing an invite card or saying, can I pray for you about something? Or meet me at church, or come to our epic group, or whatever it might be. God, I thank you that you have changed many lives in this room, and we believe there are many more outside this room, people we know that we interact with daily. Perhaps their life could be enhanced by this experience as well. God, give us boldness and wisdom on when to invite and how to do it. In Jesus' name.